Okay. It is February 11th, 1973, and we are going to discuss a little bit about the early days, the early days back in Russia. And I have with us some distinguished people.
What do you want to know?
Yes, we'll get Auntie Rose here. We have Ruth Factor, Ben Libman, and Rose Hirschman. Ruth Factor.
You're the oldest speaker.
You speak. Well, I know what to say. What do you want to know?
Well, you want my life history? I was born in Russia in a town named Verpi, next to Slovenia. I was one out of 4 children at that time.
Can you spell Slovenia for us?
S-L-O-V.
Because I had to spell it all the way through grammar school in high school. So.
That's it. What a problem.
Well, he asked you to
What a problem. I did. Chuck.
There's no mic. You can just talk. It's picking up everything, believe it or not.
I was born in June the 26th, 1913. My dad was in America. Left my mother.
Why?
He ran away. He was a coward. He was a coward. He learned about the World War I that was going to start, so he went off to America. He already fought 5 years. In 1905, the Japanese and Russian War. The Russians lost. They were a bunch of cowards.
He's recording, Norma.
My dad came to America. He was here approximately about 2 weeks when I was born. Therefore, I never saw my dad.
He came here came to America in April, May.
May.
You were born in June.
May of what? May of 1913.
May 1913. I was born in June 1913.
That was the year that the Prime Minister of Russia was killed in Kiev, right?
Speak, go ahead. Go ahead, speak.
So what am I going to speak?
Say, I'm the oldest. I'm the oldest of 5 children.
You remember, I don't.
Go ahead.
What I'm particularly interested in is what happened after your father left. And he sent money, is that it? He sent money back for you to come? And when did you decide to go?
The war broke out.
He did say he sent money, but we never received it. We sent money. We still have money in Leningrad.
Oh, we should have told
That's too late.
Philip, maybe he would collect the money there.
Well, my father sent money out for it. We never received it because the war broke out. And we lived in misery for years. We had the pogroms. We had the white Russian leaders, Petlura, Blachowicz, the Nikin. When they lost the war, they blamed it on the Jewish people. They went around slaughtering from town to town. My mother worked hard trying to provide for us, trading with pots and pans. She'd have to travel 10 or 15 miles to different cities with pots on her back. Worked very hard. Hi, Ruth.
What?
About my working,
Do you remember anything about when you were back in Russia? Do you have any stories?
Stop it, don't waste it.
She took a big stick and she was going to hit the man that took there to the train.
I don't remember it.
So she took a big stick and she was going to hold like this. She's going to kill Sergei because he took my dad to the train. We didn't have a train in our town, so he took 30 miles.
So she's talking, so it's the same story. She remembers it. I don't even remember hitting the man.
How long did it take for him to make his decision to go to Russia, to leave?
The minute he found out that Russia was going to declare war in 1913, he was the last one on the last boat to come in.
1914.
Okay, so his whole thing was to go and to immediately send money back and immediately have his family come back. Did he know that his wife was pregnant at the time?
Of course.
What do you mean?
I'm asking. I don't know.
Then, your dad was born 2 months after
he left. Okay.
Which I don't remember.
Did you have any correspondence with him at all? Was there any kind of...
Well, until the war, yeah. But today when the war started, when the war started, we didn't hear from him and he didn't hear from us. He thought that we were dead and we thought that he died in America.
Is that right? You didn't know until you got to the United States?
We didn't know. No, we knew where... But in 1920, I think...
A man was standing and I looked out and I said, gee, that should be my dad. I didn't remember him at all. And it's 1920.
When did you
in
find
1919.
How did you guys leave?
Vifana.
How did you leave to come to the United States? What was...
How, Russia?
Yeah.
Oh, we snuck out at night. And we walked across the border during the night. We hired a man to take us across. That I remember. And we had to walk during the night and hide during the day, and it was 30 miles between Slovakia and the little town in Poland that we ran away to.
Oh, so Celestia was almost right on the border of
We were
Poland.
almost on the border of Poland, and we walked 12 nights. We stayed hiding during that. I
We
remember.
would be in the woods.
Do you remember distinctly crossing the border? I mean, was that
Yes, sure.
Was that exciting? Because actually it was dangerous in Poland too. then.
Very exciting. Your father
They
fell out of the
cut-
wagon.
They caught my mother twice when she was going alone to go to Poland. They tried to heal it. Anybody
There was
walk
only
from
one
there.
wagon and about 4 families.
My father. So she
So
was
Ben was
trying
the youngest,
to,
so they put him in the
to
wagon.
escape from Russia.
And it was
They
a broken
caught her on
wagon,
the
he fell
border
out.
twice. They brought her back. Then she got already disgusted. And then we sold the house, and we all went together.
Weren't you caught in Poland or something? I remember that one story about how
Oh, yes.
you were. here.
Your father remembers that one too.
When we lost him from the wagon.
That was on the way to Poland.
I talking about Poland or on the way to Poland?
No.
I'll tell you what,
It was actually in
Dad, when I graduated school, we were here exactly 2 years. Well, they made a fuss in school that, they made it in 2 years. And they made me write a paper how we came here. Of course, that's a sister. She's dead. My aunt's oldest daughter, Rose, was a year older than I. She doctored it up a little bit. And I read that at my graduation. And the principal invited 3 women. They were from the Daughters of the American Revolution, and they liked it so well, they invited me to go to the church opening. I'd give anything to know where I was. I met the principal, and Mr. Grossman, that's Ida Miller's father. He lived with us. My dad and my mother didn't speak English, so he took me to the train, and I went on a train going south, and I had to make that speech in a church. And for the life of me, I don't know where I was.
Do you have that speech anywhere? I mean, that'd be. You have no idea.
But I know what was in it. I mean, for the earliest, what I could remember, I couldn't remember my father going away, but afterwards, and how we came here.
You were,
And I don't
you were
know
a
if
wealthy family, weren't you? I mean, you were not.
We
a poor
were
family,
till the
right?
war broke out and they took everything away.
But, I mean,
My
you-
dad's family was very wealthy, not my mother, my dad.
So you had money. You were in a relatively
Wasn't-
nice
it was-
house or
what-
something.
No, when after the pogroms, we didn't
There was
have-
nothing they took away, but they weren't poor people.
But when we came in Poland, my father
My
was looking
Sholin,
for us.
that
We
your
found
Sholin
money
is
in
named
4
after.
different places. He had
That-
money in
that
Danzig,
grandfather
he had
Sholin
money in
had-
Warsaw,
that's what
he had
the
money
town was.
Is that right?
in Rovne, he had money in another town. When we came to Poland, the daddy was looking for us.
And you know,
We had money
I
in 4
was
places,
foolish.
remember? Everybody
I knew it was,
told us
they
that you
worked
got
out
money,
and
that
asked me
daddy's
if
looking
my,
for
if
us.
my dad is in a position.
But
If my dad is in a position to send me to school afterwards.
The first time was
Sure, my father has a laundry. Big
Yeah.
deal.
Yeah, sit down.
It was a
Join
10
us.
partner to a laundry.
Get off of it.
No, both of us. No, Rose.
Go back.
No, come here. Thank you, Rose. Don't go away.
Ruining the history. Quiet.
It's repeating. Everybody knows the same thing. All right, she remembers a little
But
bit more
50
than
years
we
from now, this is all very important to
The
put
first-
this all together.
The first town that we came into Poland was named the Brovitz. A very small town. We came there at night.
This is right from Russia.
Right from Russia.
What year was this?
1921.
1921. So,
Yeah.
okay.
The first time
You were the youngest, and you were, 7 years old?
I was about 7.5 years old.
Okay.
We landed in the Brovitz. There was the first time I ever went to any kind of a school.
So you went to school in Poland?
Yeah, there was like an orphan, wasn't it? Pliut, wasn't it? In the Brovitz.
Why would you be?
Why?
We were there. I remember they giving us coca and we had sweetheart soap. I remember that well. And we stood there for a short time. Then my cousin.
What do you mean it's short time? You were there
How long were we there?
3 months.
Well, that isn't long. We were there a couple of months. And I remember Rachel and mother going to Warsaw, trying to
We
get
went,
to.
we went to
You went to a different town. I
make
remember
our passports.
Rose Moore and my brother Moore and myself were left in town, and cousin Gershon came to see us. It was the very first time that I remember him, and we walked him to the train. They were there for 3 months. Then we went to a town named Kovel. There we were about 2.5 years. And from there, Rachel, Maury and you, right? Maury and Rose went to Warsaw. They had to see doctors. They were sick in the head. They had to see doctors, and I was left alone in Dubrovitz.
Mama, you weren't alone.
Yeah, I was left with
That was in Coven, I think.
Kovel. I was in Kovel. We were left. I was left with my mother, and they were there. Then from there, we went to Warsaw. We were there for about a month or two, about 2 or 3 months. It was a beautiful city.
But I recall one episode that all of you told me there was something of thrown in jail. You were thrown in jail.
In
So-
Poland, sure.
Poland, yeah.
Where was this?
Well,
in Poland?
They
retracting.
arrested us in Kovel. We weren't supposed to be in Poland. We were Russian citizens. We weren't Polish citizens. So
Retracting.
the Russian citizens weren't allowed to be in Poland. So they wanted to send us back to the border. So they sent us back to another town, to Rovna. There, so they put us in jail. And we were 2.5 weeks, we were in jail. Meantime, we had already the papers for the visa, but they were putting the papers underneath in the, what they
The
call
bottom
it.
of a pile, yeah.
So they wouldn't, in Poland, they didn't like the Jews worse than Hitler's. So they wouldn't give us all the papers, and we didn't know that the papers are there, that we would be able to go to America. And they were sending us to the border. So my mother went out. One afternoon, they let us
Slipped a
out.
ring to a guard.
So she showed him a $20 bill, and he saw the American money, So he says, "What do you want?" So my mother told him. She says, "Look, they're sending me back to the border with 4 children, and I know if you weren't allowed to come back there, they wouldn't let you in either. You'd have to sneak in there. They just bring you to the border, but they weren't responsible no more for you. But they just want to send us out in Poland." So she slipped him a $20 bill, and he says, "All right." Tuesday, they were going to the border. He's sending a whole group to the border, so he won't send us up. He'll make up some kind of a story, and he won't send us. So we remained. 5, 6 days passed, and we still didn't hear nothing. So he called out mother, and he says, "So what's going to be now?" And he was afraid for his job, after all. So my mother says, "I still didn't hear anything, but here is $20 again." He took the other $20, and he said, "We had a lot of luggage. We already were packed and ready to leave for America. So we had a lot of stuff with us." So he says, "This time they're going by horse and wagons, they're taking us to the border." But the first time they were going by the horse and wagon. But the second time we'll go by trains. But we had too much to carry, so he says, "I'll do something, you should remain." The other couple days passed, we still didn't hear. So he comes again and he says, "Well, now," he says, "my job is in stake. I have to send you." But he wanted some more money, but he said, lay down and get like you sick. I'll send you to the hospital. They can't send the children without you. So my mother says, "No, what do you mean? You'll take me to the hospital. That won't be good. I'll put a child, I'll make him somebody sick, that they'll take him to the hospital." In the meantime, in here we were having, practically the whole town was working for us, everybody. They felt bad, they felt sad. And Rose Weiss, his husband, was with us together. So he was in Hayas every day. He used to make such a commotion in Hayas that once he came in, he gave a knock on the table, and there was an inkwell. That the inkwell flew to the to the light and broke the fixture. That's how much, they tried. So she says, "All right, I'll put a child, make sick a child, and take him to the hospital. Meantime, maybe the papers will come. If we keep on receiving food, and in the food would be a note all the time telling us how much they're trying, how much they're working for us." Finally, the day came, and he said, "That's it. That's the end of it. He can't do nothing else." He wants to borrow money, I bet. So he says,
I have $10. What is it?
So he says, "Now you have to get in our store, all the luggage and everything remained on the station." When they took us to the police station, we were in jail.
Yeah.
And everything was on the train station. So he says, "He'll send, we should get our stuff."
So my mother says, how can I get it stopped? You have to send somebody with me. We'll go claim the luggage.
Norma, I didn't even see this.
So he sent a policeman with my mother into the city. That was our going to the city.
Yeah.
Came to the city, so first thing what she went into a delicatessen store, and she says in Jewish, Pagistim David. They should give him a good,
Sauce them up. Get 'em drunk.
so then she'll be able to go wherever she wants. He'll be drunk, he wouldn't know. So she walked into a Jewish delicatessen store and she says, Pagistim David. Anyhow, they gave him a couple shots. And he says to my mother, where do you want to go? She says, the first stop I want to make, instead to go to the station, I want to go to the Hayas. Come on, I'll take you to the Hayas. He wasn't supposed to, but he was already, drunk. He didn't know better. Took her to the Hayas, and soon she came into the Hayas. They started to holler, Mrs. Libman, we got the papers, we got the papers.
And it wasn't Libman, it was Libman.
Libman, all right. We got your papers.
Did you know that? The name was
Yeah, I
Libman?
heard, yeah, that's right.
So when they, so naturally we got the papers, we came back. My mother came back, she had to bring the stuff because he sent the policeman with her. So we brought the stuff where we were. And the following day, so my mother gave him another $10 or $20, I don't know. And they sent us back from the city that they brought us there, back to Cover. So when we came there, so they were so mad, they were so bitter because they knew that something was, doing tricks.
Sure.
Like here, you pay off your politicians.
Sure, of course.
So they made us to
American way.
come. So they made us to come every day in police station. They should, report that we're not criminals, And we stayed another month there, and then we went to Warsaw and got a visa. We were able to go to America.
How long did it take between the time you actually left Russia to get to the United States?
We left Russia
August.
August 1921.
And we came here the end of 23.
We came October
October
8th.
23.
Where exactly did you go after Warsaw? What happened there?
Oh,
After
well,
Warsaw, we went to Danzig.
Danzig.
Danzig, Poland.
Yeah.
Okay, now that's on the border, right by the Baltic.
No, Germany. Yeah, the border
Yeah,
of
Germany, right.
Yeah.
If it was a part of
Poland.
Germany at the time?
Danzig was already Germany.
Yeah.
Okay, because there was an
So
alliance.
we had
there.
a small
That was
boat
German.
for 3 days. We went from Danzig, we went to who? No,
From Danzig to Liverpool.
to Liverpool. There we board the big ship.
You went from Danzig to Liverpool, okay. So how long did it take once you got into Warsaw?
As long as we got from Warsaw
There was no problem.
to America,
Because you had
it
your
took us
papers.
8 days, a week. Usually, it always took everybody more, but the boat was, the water was going to be closed. We wouldn't be able to come in no more. So they were speeding when they took us to the bed house, and we left everything in the place where we were. It was a hotel, it was a barn. But anyhow, when we got to the bed house, they came to tell us that we got to go to the boat because the boat came from Cherbourg with people, and we were a small amount of us, I don't know, 50 people or 60, I don't know how many we were, a group. So they stopped and they picked us up, they took us in a boat and they were speeding. We came to Quebec, we had our Ellis Island in Quebec.
Okay.
Yeah.
We landed in Quebec.
So we came to Quebec
That's Quebec.
but 11 o'clock or 10 o'clock, the boat stopped. So they yanked up the boat and they wouldn't let us off no more because it was, midnight already. And another boat came about 10 minutes after midnight, and the quarter was closed and they sent them back. They just turned around the boat. I'll never forget the screaming from the people. We said, you remember?
You remember?
Sure.
Okay, jump
And
ship or
then,
something,
yeah.
They just turned around the boat like, and people came
People on shore were hollering, yeah.
to meet them. Families, they struggled 2 years, 2.5 years.
sorry, you
And
told me
here, and here they already reached, like they already
Destination.
they came there to their destination. They sent them
So you
back.
waited by 10 minutes?
But we came before midnight. They came about 10 minutes after midnight. They wouldn't let them off the boat. 8 o'clock in the morning, they sent the boat back with the people. The screaming and
All right, when
a
we,
couple men wanted to jump into the
when we
ocean.
landed in Quebec, we were the last boat. They took us in, they held us there until we got papers, and my dad had to send some more money out.
He knew you were
We had
collecting
money.
Yeah, we were waiting for papers. We stood overnight. And that's where my brother Maury and myself saw first Schwarzer. They caught.
It's on tape, yeah. You can't be a bigot on the tape.
No, the first colored person we ever laid eyes on. We never heard anything like that existed.
You don't know. I thought they got black sitting there. It was like a jail.
we heard of the words through my father's letters that Arabia in Jewish means stripes. We thought it'd be people with stripes, black and white, pink, whatever color you get. That's what I thought it was. So we saw this colored person in a cell.
Still nothing.
I'm talking.
Yeah. Oh, you're talking. Excuse me.
So Maury and I were walking. We passed by and we stopped short. Then we looked. We didn't want to stare at the man, so we kept walking up and down. He thought we were both crazy.
What do you mean? In the dining room when we came, the first thing we walked in, he sent us into the place there for lunch. And you see a couple colored people are sitting by the table. What did I think that they were there so long that they got black sitting in the jail?
That's amazing that you actually came across none at all.
You never saw a
No.
color in the
Honey, the worst part
But I'm making up
was,
for it now.
the worst part was that I went to the doctor the last couple
so you
days
won't talk, huh?
before we left Warsaw. So everybody got a certificate.
Was Nancy Rosie sick or something?
Wait, a clear bill of health that everybody.
At your
If I rose, they wouldn't give her her eyes. So
What does she have wrong with her eyes?
was nothing, but
Is
he
that why her
was
son
a, he
is an
was
eye
a
doctor
Hitler.
today, or
The
is it-
doctor was a Hitler, and he just wanted to make trouble. That's all. So he got four certificates. Okay, and for her he wouldn't give her.
Wait, we're not
So
talking
we
about your
came
eyes.
back.
I heard my name, but I don't know what
So I came back and I says to her, "Don't tell nothing to Ma. Ma's not supposed to know. I don't know if they know that much. How much the doctor told me." So I figured to myself, we couldn't stay no more in Poland. We were already so tired out and with so much trouble. I figured whatever will happen, we'll be closer to America. I don't care about any port. If they're going to stop us, at least we'll be by port. But he did that, bandit. He gave me a bottle of medicine that before we'll come to a doctor, I should drop in her eyes. So her eyes will get,
And after 50 years, I still can see 2 blocks away without glasses.
You hear? So,
Don't spoil it.
so everything will be all right.
Talking the truth.
So when
important.
we
We want
came,
that in there.
so when we came on before the boat, so it was so in a hurry when they pushed us into the boat that they didn't have much time to look over everything. So thank God we're already on the boat. The next hour they closed up all the doors and we had to come on the on deck for the dinner. And there is a doctor, but I had the medicine with me. My mother doesn't know from nothing. I never went the first one. I always was the last one. Why? Because you get so tired looking at the same thing that the last ones they would
They
just
count
push
them.
it
They don't
through.
look. They just count them.
Can I tell you what it was with my eye?
Hey, you're
All
supposed
right,
to
wait.
talk over there.
Can I tell you what was the matter with
Yeah,
my eye?
yeah.
With all this, everybody told me that my left eye isn't very, very good. And when I did go into glasses, like 18 years ago, it was for the left eye.
Okay, so
And then, when Marshall was working at this Presbyterian hospital,
Rose's son is Marshall.
yeah, he fell in love
Dr.
with the
Marshall.
eye man there. That's when he wanted to go in ophthalmology. He says, "Mom, why don't you go ahead and get eyes examined for this man?" He was just in love with this man. He saw him operate. So I go there, and you know what was the matter with my eye? I had a spot left from measles. That
scarlet fever.
A scarlet fever that nobody detected in all these years, and that's what I've still got. And Marshall is watching it, and the damn thing hasn't got
but the
that made me get-
meantime, how much trouble they made us. My mother doesn't know
Nobody
from nothing.
detected it.
So it came, they started examining everybody's eyes. I stayed in the
had
back
scarlet
with her
fever
and I
really bad.
put in a drop in her eye. It goes through.
You remember?
3 times it was like this on the boat. We had this doctor
David.
examining.
Tell him this is
Then, thank God we already got through with the boat. We already going to America. We were on the train. We were already past Canada. if I remember correct, they start to announce Chicago, South Chicago,
You wanna
North
get up.
Chicago,
Every time they
South
announce-
Chicago.
you wanna
So we
get
would
up.
get up and want to jump already. So I said to my
Chicago.
mother, we're sitting on the train, I says, Ma, now I could tell you something. She says, what? I says, when I would tell you
She didn't
this,
say was. She says was.
was. When I would tell you, I said, in Warsaw, you would never be here now. She says, what is it? So I told her that I took it over myself. If something will happen on the way, I should remain with her in a court, and Ma should go on with the boys because it was already impossible. We couldn't stand it anymore.
That's what should have happened. So I could call you Greenhorn.
So,
Oh, Rick, you
anyhow,
forgot something.
yeah.
When we
forgot to stay home.
When we got to Quebec, they came and they asked Ma if she
Got money
she
to
had a strap pinned in her bra, and she
$300.
said no. She said no, and if you had no money, you couldn't come across. So they detained us till they wired my dad to get his permission that he's going to support us. And she had money.
$25, he
She had
said.
$25. That's all she needed. But she had it pinned in.
Wait a minute. No, not that.
She was
No,
modest. She was
no. No,
She
no.
was scared
Gary,
to take
Just
her
a
out.
minute.
She saw the Schwartz.
Gary, I
Be
carried
quiet.
the money in my
You know
collar,
where
my
they had
coat.
the money?
My collar, my coat.
No. In the hems of the coats.
See?
She would sit down and open the boys' coats.
That was when she
collar.
went back to Russia.
This is on the
And
border.
then I
She put
remember.
it back, the money in the coat,
When they were
sewed it
sending
in
us
the
back.
hem. She made it, right in the seam. She put in the money.
Put money away.
So we had money. We had
The double six
$300
was
with us when we
bigger,
came
My
to
mother was
Quebec.
brilliant. If
So
she
they
was
asked if we got
in
money. My
Yeah,
mother said no.
everybody's talking about it.
No, going aside. So here, we think that they send us back. We start to cry. So one man says, we didn't understand him. You'll just stay overnight. You'll wire to your husband and he'll send us the money. So he said like this here. One night we'll sleep there. It's Saturday afternoon, that was
This clown,
Friday.
your Aunt Rose, we had coffee in
Toronto.
in Toronto, yeah, Quebec. So she took salt and put it in her coffee.
Listen, meanwhile you're talking about coming
Costs
here,
us an
why
extra
don't you
dime.
tell them about what it was like in Russia? That's
Yeah, I'd like
even
to know
more
that
so.
too. Hold on one
By
second.
the way, Gary, when you start up again, ask him where the town was so we can pinpoint it. Someday I'll get
Who
it
knows
now.
where the town was?
Yeah, hold on. Wait. Okay. Tell us something about Slovakia now. Where was Slovakia? You said it was near the Polish border, right?
Yes.
And whatever happened to the Polish
No,
border?
near
There's
the
a-
Polish, near the Lithuanian.
You got Ukraine.
Okay,
Ukraine.
okay, it was in the Ukraine,
Yeah.
near the Pripyat marshes. I don't know, was it near
It
Kiev?
was 100 years, but miles
We
from
didn't have a
Kiev.
train. Actually, by train it wasn't a Kiev, but we didn't have a train.
But
What kind of Kiev? Vi bi se radio med Kiev.
Listen, wait a while. You know
But if you
what?
say it was near Poland, it couldn't
All
be
right,
near
wait a
Kiev.
while.
No,
There's Jitomer. There was
Kiev
town
is-
like
No, it
Illinois,
wasn't.
Jitomer. But there was not far from Jitomer and not far
who's
from
like
Avric.
this?
Who is Jitomer?
Jitomer,
Jitomer was
Koroščina,
too
Avric,
far.
those hundred
Oh,
gewendert.
please.
I
You have
know
to
what
spell
it's
it for these
Slovak.
people.
Tomer,
Daddy, you don't know
Jitomer.
where
A Vladek had second.
Yeah.
Wait a second,
No,
wait a second, hold on, wait.
Salvation was in Volhynia.
Dear aunts and father.
Salvation was in Volhynia, Gubernia. Gubernia is like state.
Okay, so I want to know. Now, all my life I've gone on saying that Slovakia was almost like a suburb of Kiev, about 100
No,
kilometers
not
away.
Kiev.
Now, all of a sudden, if
Very
you're
far.
saying it's near the Polish border, that's far away. Because Kiev isn't that close to the Polish
No,
border.
just a minute. Just a
But
minute.
Kiev is in
Everybody
Ukraine
stop.
too, but still.
I'll straighten that.
Kiev border, it's not Russian border, I'll tell you why. Because that time when we left Russia, that time the Polish people, they took over Russia. But we were far away from Poland.
Yeah.
But Poland was Warsaw.
You know
All
what
this,
it-
but
you
we
know
were
what is
far away
Slovakia?
from
I see.
there.
So
Poland
actually,
was the
Poland
province.
extended. Now, you once told me a story that the Polish army came marching into your town.
Yeah.
What happened that time?
During the war,
During World War I.
World War I, yeah.
Okay.
While the Russians and Polish were fighting, one particular day we saw the Polish army marching in with the music playing, with the heads up in the air, with the rifles on their shoulders, and they marched through town. It took us approximately about an hour to go through. About 2 or 3 weeks approximately, we saw them coming back. They were running, wagons with 3 wheels. They had soldiers that were killed they had 30 or 40 bodies laying, and 2 or 3 on top of the hay, you know. And this parade went up for about an hour.
Give me a bag.
And then they showed wounded horses and ponies for about an hour. They were marched through town.
Do you remember that, Auntie Ruth?
What?
Do you remember that scene of the Polish army coming in?
You know why they explain it? When after the first war, there was the Russian fighting with the Germans. The first thing was in German.
Just
You know,
minute.
as you
You
tell
never
me,
saw Germans.
you telling me,
I don't have
you
to
know
tell
what?
you nothing.
The
You don't know
Germans took away Russia.
You
And
never
then
had German.
the communists was fighting with the Polish. I
You don't
tell
know.
them what you don't know. The
You don't know
Polish
yet.
Sit down,
people,
open this
the
up.
Polish
We
people,
never saw- we
the
never
Polish,
saw
no, the Polish people was fighting with the
With the
Russians,
Russian,
with
that's
the
not
communists.
German.
Not German.
The
What do you
force
want?
was German.
So maybe when you were born, not in our generation.
You don't know.
Dirty.
We did not have any German.
Okay then.
We never saw German.
Sylvester-
All of them had Russian.
The communists was fighting with the Polish.
Yes,
See,
so when
and then the
we
Polish
were on
went
the
in.
trains, I
And
was
then the
telling
Russian,
mother
the
how
communists
we were traveling
chased
and
them
we
out. They
didn't
started
have
to
the
fight.
papers.
Oh, but the first
My
thing
mother
when there
was
was the
crying,
first war,
actually.
was fighting the
Couldn't believe
Russian
it.
with the
That I
Germans.
took so much
We
time
never
to
saw
sell.
a
There was
Wait.
Why do you
I took a big
Turn it off, would you? Harry.
Right.
Good morning.
What?
She's telling
From
us.
them get the names of the aunt, the grandparents. We never have that. None of that. You don't understand? Wait a minute. The name, put them down. All right, fine, I know that, but my kids know it.
Okay, right, that's a good point.
Get the names of the grandparents, the great-grandparents that they can remember, anything they can remember from way back.
never saw a German.
Right, before you do that,
Give
just
me a bag.
The best time to do it, I'll sit down and have
no.
I
I-
should start slow.
But I want
I
everybody.
don't care what's in our reach, was in college, and was in our
What happened?
Who's that?
Harry, just a minute.
Russians were fighting.
I don't care about the German. What I want to know is what happened while you were on the train to Chicago, and when you finally got into the station in Chicago. I mean, who were you met by? What were your feelings? What happened?
Well, when we
Throws.
came to Chicago already, my
You can.
father was at the station, my aunt, and my couple cousins. This is too greasy. Don't put it on the
It's
couch.
making noise.
So,
Which aunt? Which aunt?
Fox, that's the only aunt we had.
Tanti Fox. Tanti Fox was waiting for you in the
At the
station.
station with my father.
With your father.
On a
And
Monday.
a couple cousins. In Sunday, they were the labor viners was there, and we were supposed to come original Sunday, but when they wouldn't let us go through. They were door is open. We had to have the money to show, and we we goofed up, so we had to stay overnight.
You got
So
your
we
train
came
went directly
Monday.
from Quebec to Chicago.
To Chicago,
No
yes.
stops. I mean, not
No, we
Montreal.
had in Toronto. I've been
Crossed the border in Detroit.
Okay, you went through Windsor, Canada.
Yeah,
then
they
to
searched
Detroit.
us in Detroit. Like
They
the-
searched you. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But my mother had a Persian lamb coat. She had to declare. She wore it, but she still had to declare.
Okay.
She had half a dozen silver like spoons and forks. They
Let
denied
me
her.
ask you this: at this point, you're probably feeling pretty good. Did you feel at this time you were really going to make it now because you've had so many
I
disappointments?
don't know.
But when I
felt
got
very-
to this,
very
when
Were,
I
were, you,
came,
were you nervous?
Very scared I was anyhow.
when
Seeing
they
my
got
father for the
when I
first
got
time.
to here, and I came into my aunt, I was very much disappointed for America. They were
We're
very
20 years
poor.
backwards.
Don't look around backwards. You can have to.
Oh no, they are 30 years behind this country.
But let me. How did you feel when you saw your father for the first time in 10 years? I mean, it must have been.
How did we feel? We were strange, but we came to my aunt's house. My father stayed with my aunt, but he had an apartment prepared
This was in
for us.
Chicago, on the west side of
Yes,
Chicago?
Yes,
Where?
1411 Washburn.
Thank you. 1411 Washburn.
that's right.
Okay.
So
On the
he
third
had
floor up front.
6 rooms.
Where is it now? What's happening to
It's
1411
a project.
Never mind about that.
He had 6 rooms furnished. Every room was furnished with good furniture, with everything, and they wouldn't tell us nothing. So when we came to my aunt and I saw all that, I was very disappointed. I figured that my aunt's home is whole America. That's everything.
Did you expect the proverbial
we
streets lined with
expected
gold?
a lot
and-
of things better because we left home a better home than what we saw here. So I was very disappointed, very much.
Go play numbers.
Then-
No, listen now.
Then we ate dinner, and of course the first thing they gave us is bitter sauce. What do you call it? Physics. They gave us all a physics.
And I made a bathroom.
And they're going for a walk. Everybody's going for a walk. And we walked, it was about 3 blocks where my aunt lived, to the apartment where
More than
my
3 blocks.
father, 4 blocks.
More.
All right.
From
Mr.
52 Washburn to 1411 Washburn.
I got news. Tante wasn't on,
Petition.
Tante wasn't on Washburn that time.
That doesn't matter. Okay.
So we came to the building, and my father, he's walking up the steps. He says, "Come on up." So my mother says, "Kirsten, where am I going?" He says, "Let's go. We want to see somebody." He came to the door, and he gives her the keys, says, "Unlock the door." And when he came in the house and opened all the lights and everything was, nice and 6 rooms with everything. So when we got in the house, my mother started to cry. Real, that was Dr. Azik, that's your home.
That's nice.
So
Good. I'm glad that made the tape. That's a good story.
Yeah.
That's
So that was
So that was your
already-
first apartment in
that
Chicago,
was our
and you already
first
had a better opinion of the United States.
And then it was a little different. So the next day, we were on the 3rd floor. It was white steps, no runners. And I took a brush and a bar of soap, and I was scrubbing the steps. So Saturday, my mother made a kiddush, to invite the cousins, I don't know. So everybody was coming, and they looked on the steps. They said, "Now we see the greenhorns live here. Who's got such a white steps?"
All they want to do is talk about here.
I want you to take you to learn the language, learn English.
I still didn't
I
learn.
get that too.
We still didn't learn, honey.
Then we were enrolled in school. Maury and I went to Rogers School.
When was Auntie Norma born? Up to
Uh,
this
later-
point, it's just
later on.
1 and 4.
You're talking about 10 o'clock. They let us out. Did I trust it so much? Says, "Look, what a short day." We went home.
after recess.
And I was lost. I couldn't find $40
So we went home. We liked it. We just go 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, you go home. So next day we came back to school. They took us out to the principal's office.
Well, you went, it was recess time. So you walked home.
And I had a hard time finding the house for the first date for the when I went.
And then I became Americanized. We had a family coming from Italy, 2 brothers and a sister, or vice versa, I don't recall. And the teacher tried to explain to them about a house brick.
Give me a clean
They,
bag.
they couldn't comprehend what it was. The teacher asked
Give me
find them a
2 of
house
them.
brick.
Didn't break through.
A brick. Didn't know what it was. So I went off the street and I found a brick. I brought to school. I thought I was so Americanized. I felt superior to the other greenhorns.
Talk to the window.
Okay, now getting back 10 years earlier now, in Russia itself, in
Yeah.
Russia,
Yeah.
you see the movie Fiddler in the Roof, everything else. I mean, you see that the town was kind of divided between the so-called Jewish sector, and then they had the other side with the gates and the big Russian church. Now, was that how Sloveshna was too?
What's that?
Well,
Slovenia was, I would say, 90% Jewish.
Sloveshna was 90% Jewish.
The cloister, their church, was in the middle of the town.
Center town.
But it was attended by the suburbs, where all well, they were farmers, but they were also peasants.
well, they had
The church in the middle of Slovenia, but in Slovenia, I don't even think, as far as I can remember, maybe they're 10%, because we live on the main street, our street was paved,
Schlacht.
what is Majarivska ulica, that means
Okay,
street.
could you name the people, the family who lived with you, the cousins and the aunts and uncles and the
Yeah.
we have,
Well, entering Slovenia, we had an aunt, Pesha. A great aunt, whatever she
No,
was.
you did not have a
I
neighbor.
know they're gonna fight, goodbye.
Well, who was she? Who was she?
Pesha was a neighbor.
A neighbor. Who was the blind one? What was her name?
Sorrel, ledges.
No, not Torlash. So somebody up from Majari.
Oh, Rivelipa.
Yeah, she lived across the street a little.
Near my
wow.
uncle's house. No, that's
how
not
well can you remember back as far as your grandparents and such? Do you
I
remember?
remember my
What were their
grandmother.
names? What were their names?
My grandmother
Charlotte.
Schiffer She used to, I remember
The Hideaway,
well.
the Hideaway.
She-
Shipper's
Yeah,
Hideaway.
She used
that's
to
right.
make cookies and hide it from the
I know
grandchildren.
that, right.
Is that why you call
Yeah,
it?
Shipper's Hideaway. Did you hear that?
Oh, I never knew that.
No, I never knew that.
And to this day, every time my mother hides cookies from us, we call it Shipper's Hideaway. That's true, we do.
All right, what was your grandfather's name? This was what?
Charlotte.
maternal-
Your name.
Maternal or paternal? Was this your mother's grandparents?
No, no, my
father.
father. God forbid, my mother.
All right, now what was your mother's grandma, your mother's mother's name?
Neumann.
Norma, for
The
Norma.
other
And
questioner
your
here
mother's
is-
father's name?
Yankee
Yankee
Velvo.
Yankevel.
My
Yankee
uncle is named
Velvo.
after him.
Okay,
That's his Yankel.
okay. And do you remember their parents' names?
Philip
That's what I wanna
Factor
know.
is aiding in the
Oh.
questioning.
Their parents.
Their parents' names. In other words, your
Sheldon.
great-grandparents.
I don't remember.
You don't remember their names?
No, I
That's what I would like to know. That's all.
Well, you know
call
who
Nelson
knows? Ask Tante.
All right,
Ask
let's
Tante.
not. All right,
Or
but
Gershon.
I can't put it in
now
the
wait,
tape,
wait.
though.
Your maiden name was Nyman. So
Yeah. My mother's
your
maiden
mother's
name.
maiden name was Nyman.
Yeah, mine was
All
Libman.
right, I understand.
Yeah, that picks
But
it up.
Yeah.
Your mother's parents then were Nyman. What about
My
your
my mother.
grandmother's maiden name? What was that? Do you remember
Katz.
that? Katz?
Yeah.
Okay.
Ach,
that's
tolle
all.
Kids, gewesen Brüder zu sehen.
All right,
So my grandma's name, maiden name was Katz.
that's what I wanted to know. you
Yeah.
see. That's what I'm trying to
My
find out.
you
Your
know the
father's
they,
mother's
grandmother
maiden
sleep with
name. What
cats.
was that?
my father's
Mother's
My
maiden
great
name.
great grandfather. You sleep with
Nyman.
Your father's mother's maiden name was Nyman?
My father's mother's maiden name was
I
Nyman
forgot.
because
Ada
my
and Baba
they were
cousins.
first
They're
cousins.
first cousins, that's right.
Why no? Zayd and Baba
That's why
were
my
sisters
father
and
twitches
brothers.
occasionally.
No,
My
no.
father and mother was
Your
first
father,
cousins.
okay, right.
Your father and mother were first cousins.
First
That's right.
cousins.
It's illegal, isn't it?
No, only in some states.
That's good.
Huh?
That's immature.
Not in Russia. Was.
Who was sister and brother
Who
now?
was sister and brother?
Who?
All
My-
the grandparents
my-
had to be sister and brother.
My mother's father and my father's mother were sisters and brothers.
Your
Oh,
mother's?
this I didn't know.
Well, if they
Your
Sure.
father's mother,
My father's mother and my mother's father,
were
sisters
sister and
and
brother.
brothers.
somebody had
Okay, that's right.
That
That,
means you're your own grandmother.
therefore, your parents were first cousins.
First cousins.
Okay.
That's right.
Therefore, you, your brother and sister, you two are
I'm
second
second
cousins
cousin,
to each other. And you and I, even though you are my Auntie Ruth,
I'm
you
third
are
cousin.
my second cousin once removed.
Yeah.
It's nice to
So-
know, anyways.
Wait a minute now.
I'd rather call you my
All
aunt.
right, your grandfather,
Yeah.
Grandpa Shalom,
Yeah.
had the brick
Alice
factory.
Shalom or just
Yeah.
Shalom?
Yeah, that's
Shalom.
right. That's
Had the
right.
brick factory
Yeah.
in what town? Was that in the
Slaveshny.
In
He's
Slaveshny.
He had a
Slaveshny.
brick
Yeah.
factory.
He had a brick factory.
That's why you knew
In
about bricks.
Verpi, he had a big orchard.
He had an orchard. What they grow?
Bricks. Bricks.
Get out.
Chilies. I mean,
What they grow.
What did
He
they
had
Apple barn,
a
apple
big sod. What do you call it? An
orchard.
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 This was in
Yeah,
Slovenia?
no,
No,
in outside. That was in a small,
Verpi, where I was born.
in a village like.
Where I was
What
born.
did they grow
By
there?
the way, when I
What kind
get
of
there, I
orchard?
must tell you,
Jews.
I'm the only Slaveshnian.
You're the only one born in Slovenia?
I was born in
Rose was born in
Selets.
She was
Slovenia.
born in Soledad.
Where was Maury born?
Morris in
He and the father
Verpi.
in Verpi.
In Rapi?
That's a suburb
Where's
of
Rapi?
Slovenia.
Verpi. Near
So
Slaveshny.
Lashner was big enough to have
Rapi as a
suburb?
suburb?
Yeah.
I mean, so that's not a
It
suburb.
was mostly
That was one house.
that was a
Only two
suburb.
Jewish families we
It
were in
was a
Verpi.
it wasn't a suburb. It was really a town, but no Jews. My mother moved there to make a living because she was selling to the farmers, and they were all peasants.
She was selling pots and pans, right?
No, no.
Everything, kerosene, soap. She embroidered
Needles.
for them, whatever they
Well,
needed.
this was
There
all
there
while
was
Zeta
no,
was in America, though.
Yeah, no,
There-
Zayda
yeah.
was home yet.
It was on yet. There was no store.
I mean, he let his wife go out and work? I thought that
What
was just
did
a new
Zeta do?
Well,
concept.
I'll tell you. Oh, that's what I was going to tell you.
All right, go
If
ahead.
you weren't a rabbi, and you weren't
One
law
that
enough-
shoemaker.
and you weren't law enough to be a tradesman, which is my grandparents would have cut the throat if they had a tradesman in the family. So they were nothing.
I'll tell you something.
He didn't have a job.
Listen, wait, my grandfather made out of wheel. He was very rich. He made out of wheel a couple hours before he died.
Move this thing out of the
That's
way.
no joke.
Yeah, I'm listening.
So he wouldn't give. My father was in America. We didn't even know if he's alive. So we were
Norma
4
Adams
kids
today.
left and my mother. So he wouldn't even leave nothing for us because my father went to America. He's a goy. My father observed that in America Shabbos better than his sons over there. That's besides the point. But he thought that you go to America, you just like
So
just like
he cut him off and cut
that's
you off.
it.
without
Yeah.
anything.
So, but in a wheel, you got to leave something.
Yeah.
So he left us a small little piece of ground that you could plant something like potatoes or whatever you wanted to
plot of
plant.
ground,
Yeah. A small one, like this table big, in order that the wheel shouldn't be,
Yeah.
otherwise we could have break
Right.
the
What'd you do with the land? You still own it?
yeah, we still own it.
One thing I didn't use those tables are public.
Huh?
No, the government,
Yeah.
government owns
We
it.
had plenty of land there. My grandfather had plenty of land in building.
Not your grandfather.
My parents
Yeah.
were just
All right. What
what
about
happened-
Grandma's parents? What kind of her
my
father? What did he
my
do?
grandfather.
Uncle Velvo, he was
He
a
was
dog.
making a living. He was a
What?
very good person.
Like
What did he
Taylor
do?
the Milky Kid.
All right. Tabby the milk kid. What did he do? I mean, what did he do? For
He
a
was
living?
peddling. He was selling. Whatever came, whatever
right,
whatever
now,
it came to
Mom,
his way.
Baba left a sister in Russia.
Sure,
Still
she's
alive.
still- sure.
What's her name?
Kaya.
Kaya.
Okay,
My
now,
mother-
who is Kaya? Okay, Kaya is still
My
alive
mother's
in Russia.
sister, yeah.
Where in Russia is she now?
Novrich.
In 1973, she is in Novrich.
Yeah.
Where is Novrich?
Novrich is Volina gubernia
30
also.
miles from Sylvester.
30 miles from Sylvester. Nobody knows where Sylvester is.
I'm going to get a map and make him point it out.
It wasn't on the map.
tried.
It wasn't on the
Okay,
map.
we've looked. All right, let me ask you this now.
Yeah.
Now, Kaya's
Yeah.
children.
Yeah.
All right. Now, I believe that one of her children went to South America. Whose children went to South
My
America?
mother's brother's children.
Your
My
mother's
mother's brother was
what
in
was his
Argentina. Gershon.
Gershon. He's not alive now.
No.
Right? Or Gershon.
He died just before his father's bar mitzvah.
All right. He
Before-
moved to Argentina.
Before
Yeah.
Ben's
His
bar
children
mitzvah.
are living in Argentina
No,
now.
they were here.
Right,
Ishmael and
No,
Malcolm.
I know this. We're talking for the record.
Yeah,
All right, let's-
yeah.
All right, his children
Are
are
our
living,
first cousins.
our first cousins,
Right.
and that is Ishmael Nyman,
Yes.
and he's got a sister. right?
Malcolm,
And
two
Malcolm.
sisters,
And
and
what's the other-
Bella.
Malka and Bella
In
in
Adolf.
Argentina. And Adolf?
One was born there, yeah.
Oh, all
Adolf.
right.
Such a normal name,
Now,
Adolf.
the cousin that is in Australia
My father's
My
side.
is
father's,
your father's side. All
my
right, now tell-
father's brother's daughter.
Okay, now let's go back for a minute. Your mother had how many brothers and sisters?
Two brothers. Gershon's father died in Argentina.
Yeah.
And she had Chaya, and the tante was eingesehen.
And Tom.
Esther.
Okay. All right, now your father had how many brothers and sisters?
My father had four brothers.
All right, what
Three,
were
they
their
were all
names?
together four.
Oh, three brothers.
What were their names?
Meishe, Mordechai,
Yeah.
and Meir Wolf.
Okay, Mayor Wolf. They all stayed in Russia.
They just died
Who's
a
he
couple
married?
years
Died
ago.
recently.
What was he
in
mayor
Russia.
of?
Yeah.
Okay.
And two sisters,
And what were their names?
Lesha and Esther.
Okay, fine. What was Lasha and Esther's married name? Would you know that?
Yeah, Esther
why?
was Polyanovsky,
Yeah.
and there's Lesha's name was Schulman.
As of this writing, as of this
See?
speaking, how many relatives do we have other than United States relatives?
Oh, we left a big family. Who knows who's
So we still have a lot of relatives
Yeah, we
in
still
Russia.
got
Do we have
a
any in
lot.
Israel? We have some in Israel. None in
Australia
Argentina.
discussed
Australia.
that.
But
We
one
have some
thing
in
I'll tell
Australia
you,
and in Buenos Aires.
one thing I'll tell you, the family, you should excuse me, I don't want to express myself. My aunt Chaya has got a son, has got the same trouble as my brother Morris. He's in the hospital right now.
In Russia.
He's laid up with his leg.
With the arteries, the same problem.
Same
It's
thing.
heredity. More problem with
The same
the
thing.
arteries. Yeah, right. Okay, so it could be heredity. Anyway, the reason
Yeah.
I'm asking
Hope I don't
is
get
just
it.
so we get it all down, because who can remember,
What else do you want
All
to
right,
remember?
I wanted to know what you remember about
was
Russia,
second
about, you don't remember your great...
We
I
remember-
can ask you a question.
Wait.
Great parents' names.
Your great-grandparents' names. I know you knew your grandparents' names.
My father's name was Meishe.
Okay, that's your grandparents.
Yes,
But what was his father and mother's name? Would you remember that?
Meishe.
Meisha's father's and mother's
Who
name.
know back that far?
That
Who knows?
your
I don't know.
great-grandparents. You don't know?
No,
I'm
I don't
asking
know.
because this is a part of the
Great
history.
grandfather would be Sholom's father was Meishe. That's
Yeah.
how my brother Morris is named for
Okay.
his father.
All right.
So that's
That's
much
as far
I
you
know.
know. Okay.
Yeah.
The question I have is, did they ever tell you or ever mention to you they lived anywhere else but that area in Russia? Did they ever live somewhere else?
They were scattered in all the small towns
Towns in
around
Russia,
there.
but in that area.
Sure,
Okay.
sure.
No, I want to know because
That's right. They
not
were
all the Jews
scattered.
in Russia lived there for hundreds of years. Sometimes
No,
they came from
they
other
were.
areas.
They
That's what I'm trying
lived
to
all
find out.
around in the small
But
towns.
they were all born in Russia. You know,
Every
no
one
one
of
else
them.
being born anywhere else.
Every
Okay,
one of
this
them
is
was
what I
born in
wanted to
Russia.
find.
What I was curious, you once told me a story about some cousins being killed by robbers or something. Who was
My
that?
cousin.
While in Slovenia,
Well, you were living in
while
Slovakia.
we were living in Slovenia, one Friday morning, I remember distinctly, my uncle, Mayor Wolf, which lived a few doors
That's
from
your
us,
father's brother.
my father's younger
brother.
brother, came to our town and told my mother, Mrs. Zitterwickel, we haben Gast.
Auf English, bitte.
We have
Yes.
gas, pretty sad, and then burst out crying. And therefore, told us what happened. My cousin that lived, my aunt's daughter, she was about 25 years old, approximately at that age, lived in a town, Beletnik?
No. I don't know.
Lived in a
was in
village about 9 miles away from us.
Trahonskis.
Yeah. And she came over, this was...
No, just a minute. Started right. My cousin moved out in a suburb,
What the
and her brother, everybody thought that he was lost in the army, that he was fighting, in the war. And we never heard from him. Just a minute. He was captured he was
He didn't
in
want to go that
prison.
far. You want to know what happened?
No, but wait a minute.
Whatever.
So
Yeah.
he
It's all
came,
interesting.
so his father and mother died, and he came like he would fall off the sky. He came home.
It's like now when they announce the prisoner that
Yes,
was
so
going 9 years.
he came home, and they sent somebody to bring the sister. She was the oldest one, to see the brother. They were so excited, They were 8 children, 4 brothers and 4 sisters. So while she was coming to see the brother, so they killed her on the way. She was riding with
Who's
a
they?
neighbor.
Robbers?
No,
That was the...
2
No,
neighbors.
there was no more pogrom. The Bolsheviks was already,
Marcy, don't do that.
and they were protecting everybody. That was the guerrillas. And the
year was it?
guerrillas.
Which guerrillas? I mean,
That must have been
They
in
were just
1919
they were just killing
or
the Jews,
1912.
guerrillas.
it was just Jews, and they were
A
selected.
neighbor.
White-
They just
white-
neighbor.
White Russian
Russian.
guerrillas that were just for the pleasure of it. They didn't even rob them. They had nothing to rob. They killed. They were 2 men out for business, and they were coming back from a business trip. 2 young men, and she took a ride with them to come home to see her brother. And all 3 of them were killed during the night. And that man that was driving the sled brought them in. They didn't bother him. They only killed us 3. And they
He
brought
did
him,
it.
and they brought him in.
He was my grandfather's neighbor.
And they,
The driver?
so when they told my mother that she wasn't home, so I ran with Ma.
What are you talking about? She was in a house when Uncle walked in. I remember
Ruth
this.
was
I was in Bridge.
and I went in with Ma. And I couldn't have been any more than 10 years old.
Marcy, thank you.
I'll never forget. They were like frozen together, the 3 bodies.
It was winter.
And my cousin's mouth, they cut her from here, was hanging
Jaw,
down.
yeah.
The jaw right here was hanging down. And that I remember.
See, they
had
tied
him like
them
in a
up.
morgue, in a Jewish morgue.
See, they tied them up together. So they
But
put
only
one
one
man
person.
and my cousin on
Her name
top
was
of the
Rosa.
man, and then another man, and they
close
tied
together,
them up
3
together, all 3 of them. And that's how they
We'll
cut
continue on
it.
another tape.
Yeah, I remember distinctly. Took on a sled. It was the dead of winter. And our cemetery was up on a little hill where the sled couldn't make the turn. I remember standing on the runners in the back of the sled, so the sled could swing into
I don't remember. I remember running with my mother and seeing her
Then they
face.
took him into a house where they knelt, that side.
They must have
And you want to hear the
money.
funniest thing?
Yeah, the mountain.
They wore those high
mountains
boots
like
with
we had little
laces,
houses,
the women.
like, more or less like
Yeah.
farmhouses.
Like now, our fancy boots here.
Now you want to hear the whole thing? My mother sent me like to Overage. It's a bigger city than ours. There came a list from America to tell which, that the husbands were looking for the families. So my mother couldn't go away, so she sent me with another girl.
Where was Elbridge?
Overage was
30
30
miles
miles from us. So she sent me winter time.
That
So
is on the map.
So
30 miles or 30
Let's
kilometers.
go. I need something on the
30
map.
miles.
Elbridge is on the
And
map.
Elbridge
How
on
in the
the
world
map.
do you spell Elbridge? Is it U-V-O-F?
well, I got letters. I'll show you an envelope.
Okay, you can let us know.
Sure.
Okay.
So wait, so I borrowed a coat and a pair of shoes for my girlfriend, and we walked away, myself and another girl. We went to a bridge. They should read off the list. We thought that Pa is not alive anymore. Maybe Pa's name is there. As a result, it wasn't. This one's looking for that one, and that one, father's name wasn't mentioned. But as we were walking, so they were killing on every corner. From far, I see that a soldier is coming. So I says to the girl that I walked with her, I said, Sorrel, that's all. That's our end. Here we, and I was that time about 19 years
Is
old.
it Cossacks you saw? White Russian Cossacks?
No, wait. So the soldier is walking. I said to her,
You were
now,
not 19 years old then.
I wasn't.
No.
So maybe I was 18, I don't remember. Anyhow, he's coming towards us. We couldn't hide. We couldn't run away from him. And he's walking towards us, and he stops us. Are you coming from Slaveshnia? Yes. He says he's going to Slaveshnia. And as he opened his mouth, I'll never forget as long as I live. That scene I'll never forget. He opened his mouth, and he says he's going to Slaveshnia. I said, throw him. And when he went away for a soldier, I was a little girl, because he was away about 4 or 5 years. And I recognized him. So he says, who are you? I says, I'm Shleme's daughter. So he takes me around, he starts to hug me. He says, yes, I heard already. His mother and father had just died.
That
He's-
was epidemic, everybody.
So he says, it was just a couple months after my aunt and uncle. They died in a week apart
Of what?
of typhus.
Typhoid?
Yeah. My aunt
You
died.
didn't die from it.
My aunt died, and they came back from the cemetery, and my uncle took sick, and in the Shiva, he died. So he says he heard that already on the way that his father and mother is not there.
I finished the story. While this end died, half of Slaveshia, that was big as a minute, was occupied by the Bolsheviks, and half by Poland. My mother had to get a permit to go to her sister-in-law's funeral.
Is that right?
They wouldn't let out my
Honest to God.
my
And I
grandfather
was a
was
little girl,
laying.
but I remember.
My grandfather was laying dead in the house, and they couldn't go on the cemetery burying him. They had to have a permit to go to the cemetery. They wouldn't let out.
Cross the lines, you mean?
No, it wasn't. No, because outside of the city was Bolsheviks, and in the city was Poland.
Our
Let me
section was
ask,
Bolshevik.
all right, Mom, when was Zeta born? You know what year?
My Zeta was
Yeah.
born.
No, your father.
Oh, yes. I just got your father just became a citizen. Let's see. 1885.
All right, and what about Grandma? Do you remember know when she was
She's
still?
20 months younger.
What would it make him? 1885. Pa would be now.
15 plus
So she was in
73,
87.
80, 88.
Yeah, that's right. In 1985.
And
How
Grandma?
would be
I saw
88?
past passport. Past passport is 1880.
I'm sorry.
I always remember the year
Sorry,
1889.
Pa would be alive. Pa would be 90 years now.
Yeah.
91. I'm sorry. Pa would be 91 now.
Oh, I know him too. I know him too.
How can
No,
25
all right, let's not, hey, wait a
63
minute,
be
wait a minute. Let's
91?
not argue. Meanwhile, Grandma was 20 months younger,
Yeah.
okay? So she was born for a year after, the following year.
No, 2 years. The figure to
Probably
20 months.
1888, probably.
Yes,
Okay.
she was born in.
All right. Do you know of your grandparents? If you know what year they were born, do you have any idea at all?
Which grandparents?
Charlotte and Shifa, you wouldn't know.
You
that.
wouldn't know.
Please, who knows? I didn't even know how old they were when they died.
Okay,
They were pretty old. They were about 65, 70. Who knows?
I'm just asking because I'm trying to get
don't know.
a fix in time.
I don't know.
Now, I understand that the Bolsheviks were better to the Jews than the White
Oh,
Russians.
sure.
right?
They saved us from the guerrillas.
I remember from the stories. So the Bolsheviks were actually good to the Jews, and the White Russians are the ones who were killing them off. Now, I recall one incident you said that you actually were able to point out
Not
people,
people could say, but yeah. the-
Jews were able to say
Yeah.
to Bolsheviks, they are bad to Jews, and the Bolsheviks would take care of them or something. You also told me a story a long time ago about the town idiot or something. Somebody killed the rabbi. Somebody killed the rabbi.
Oh, that's the pogrom.
No, it wasn't the town idiot. It was the bum in the city. Why, the reason he was a bum, he would ride a horse on Sabbath. Not that he committed any crime to anybody.
Who? When it is there?
That was a
Just a minute.
Let's put the story
What's
down.
makes there?
So during the pogrom, they
Which pogrom? What year?
Approximately 1920, 21.
No, 21, no. Was it 1980, 1919? 1919.
Or 18.
1919, don't say 1980.
So the rabbi in
Pogrom is
town
when 1919.
was killed when the bandits caught him, and they cut him, and the blood went on his daughter's house dress, whatever she was wearing. And he was, they were pointed out to the bandit that did it. This town bum, as you call him, took a knife and cut him, and he poured salt on his wound, and he died from pain of the salt. Am I right?
So the town bum did it to the guy who killed the
What did the
rabbi.
rabbi say?
When they walked in, one of the guerrillas walked in the house, and he was laying. The rabbi was laying. He was wounded badly at night. He walked in the morning, so the rabbi thought it was the doctor. So he says, "Right here it hurts me." He says, "Right here is the sore." So he had a handful of salt, and he poured the salt into the wound, and he died on the spot. The rabbi. That was given a bandit is around. Don't tell me no. Don't tell me no.
Who were the guerrillas? The guerrillas were the white Russians.
You know who were the gorillas? You know who were the gorillas? Our neighbors.
Your next door neighbor.
Our
was
neighbors.
the killing.
Gary,
And
what's
at one time during the
You
raid,
say next door neighbors. How close do they live to you? Next farmhouse
next
down?
farmhouse, maybe next house.
Really
there.
far. They were
During one of the pogroms, we were chased into my grandfather's estate, where we dried bricks. We were hiding out there, And a bandit came in that knew my mother, I'll show him. And my mother got down on hands and knees, asked the police for our life. So he told us to get out and hide someplace else. And another bandit was coming in. He wasn't going to be responsible. And while the shooting was going on,
He locked us in.
He locked us in a barn where they're drying the bricks. And the bullets were flying. You could actually see them going in and out of the house. And the woman asked me to get on. She dug a hole, and she asked me to get on top of her. Me being a small child, I got on top of her. I was supposed to get the bullet instead of her. My mother put me off and had an argument with the woman. Then the bandit came in, and my mother knew. She got down kissing his hand, and he told her to hide out someplace else. Right from there, we went underneath a bridge. And we were
Under
standing-
that bridge, both uncles of ours were standing in water up to here,
That's right.
under a bridge. We didn't know where they are. So the one that's in now in Australia, her sister was a year old. It's older than her. She was born after we left. So the little girl was with us. She started to cry. So my aunt took off her babushki and stuck in her mouth. To choke her. She shouldn't cry, and they shouldn't know where we are hiding. So my mother grabs out the babushka of her mouth, and she says, "What are you doing?" She says, "In kind of her, we're all going to be killed." So my mother says, "Maybe in her, how do they say, in her luck, we're all going to," in Yiddish they say different. "So maybe we're all going to remain." She says, "Maybe she'll save us all." And she wouldn't let choke the baby. The baby was screaming, was hungry. It was already about 11 o'clock in the morning. And the same one that found us there was at night. We were hiding in a barn, so he came at night, and he was working for my grandfather. He made his living, but making the bricks, digging the ground, the clay. So he was making a living out of my grandfather. So he knew us all. I mean, we all grew up in front of him. So he says to my uncle like this, my father's younger brother, "I don't know what to do with you. To shoot you, it cost $25. 25 rubles a bullet. To stick in a knife in you," he says, "I don't want to make the knife dirty." So, somebody else will do the job, and he walked out. As he walked out, we ran out from there, and we were hiding where they used to make the fire. They used to not dry, but they used to make it like red bricks, burn them. So we hide there. He was going in the city, in the market, and he was taking, the grabiert,
Rob.
stuff, and it was kind of far to his house, so he was trying to hide it there, that he should come with a wagon and pick up the stuff. So when we were sitting there and we saw him, so my mother started to beg, and he says, all right. He walked out, and a cousin of mine was there with a baby, 11 months old, a little boy, for his baby. So she walked out because the baby was crying. So they got a hold of her and they took the baby. They turned the baby right in her arms. Haika, the Melipkes. And he put the latch out in the outside. So we couldn't even get out no more. But somehow somebody else came to hide, the stuff, and they opened the latch and we ran out. And the corn was already, it was late, in the season. The corn had to come off the fields. The crop was ready, so we knew all the corners there because we grew up there, we knew that. So through the fields, through the corn and all that, we reached a little town, a little village, and we ran away there. So we got there, but sometimes late in the afternoon.
Was this during the pogrom?
No, Miss Angela,
Was this during the pogrom, or was this
in the
part of the
pogrom.
revolution?
No, in the
About
pogrom.
1919?
That was in 1919.
Who was doing the attacking though? These weren't
The
Bolsheviks.
neighbors,
Just
no, John,
White
the
Russians and the neighbors.
the neighbors. So we came there, and one peasant told us that he was a good-natured person. So he says he can't let us in the house because they were going with saying whoever is going to hide a Jew, they're going to burn down the house, and they're going to kill the family and all that. So they were afraid. Some of them wanted to save you, but they couldn't, see. So he brought us green onions, a piece of bread, and some milk, I don't remember. And the kids, like him and my cousins, the smaller one, he took at night, he took it to the house. And the other remained on the field in a, what do they call it, like a shed?
Fire.
No.
A shed?
No,
Silent.
a shed. Like they used to make the Fleckenbach-Rom ab sie mir ab Winter dort Potatoes from the Gerina Keller.
the cellar, right?
Yeah. Well, anyways, we were there until Saturday morning. Saturday morning, the Bolsheviks came from Overage, and they said whoever did any harm, first of all, they should bring everything what they took away from the Jews, they should bring it back. So the first one that came, so they killed him, the first one that came. Then a whole army came. So when they came in, so all the peasants,
The first one that came,
the
the
neighbors,
first Bolsheviks that came, they killed.
a Jewish fellow. So then when they came in, so everybody was running. Remember, I was trying to hide you. I knew where you was. I was trying to save you. Everybody got on the good side of you, While we came back to the town, back to the city, So this one here that he found us, the Bolsheviks had him already, and they were taking him to the marketplace. So he says, here, ask her. I saved her. So my mother couldn't say nothing. He was, all his life, everybody was afraid of him. He had, what do you call it? They used to take water. No.
Marcy, quiet.
A pump that we used to come to the well to take water. So we used to be afraid of him. In the good times, he was our bandit. So my mother turned him aside, and they took him a block away and they killed him.
Did he kill him?
Sure.
He's the one that didn't want to waste his bullets on you?
Yeah, that's the one that is.
That's a good ending. I like that.
Yeah.
Didn't want to
Yeah. Then.
Grandpa, all right, go ahead, finish your story. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Then they took all the belongings, belonged to everybody. They brought it. They couldn't go bring it back to every house, so they told them to leave like in front of the city hall, Lembolas, and everybody's stuff. So who didn't have nothing to pick out the better stuff, and who had something remained with nothing. But whatever they picked up was nice. They said, "This is ites." My mother had.
We had the nicest house in the whole town.
Sure.
Your grandfather, you told me the story, was killed by a pitchfork, one of the
Yeah,
workmen.
that's the same Friday morning. He was hiding in another place. We didn't even know where
How
he
many were
was.
with you? How many were hiding with you? In that
With us
year?
was my aunt and her family, and my grandmother, my father's mother.
Also tell us the story of the time that we're running away, and Uncle was had his family in a wagon, and Ma came with us with 4 children, and he took a 2x4, and we wouldn't let us go on a wagon.
He didn't have the wagon. He was in the house.
Okay.
He didn't
Who
have the wagon.
who got killed by the pitchfork?
I ain't saying a word.
Your grandfather was killed by a pitchfork. One of the workmen
My
stabbed,
father.
A wagon by Uncle.
stabbed with a pitchfork by one of his workmen.
We tried to go.
right?
He took
No,
his family
I don't know
in a horse
who.
wagon.
don't
He
know.
was hiding in a stack of hay,
Yeah.
and they was going around and picking with a pitchfork, and they stuck him in the
This was
side.
Russia.
The white
White Russian. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Mom, Zeta served, my grandfather, your father, served in the Sino-Japanese War, or the
Yes,
Russo-Japanese
5 years.
War.
Yeah,
All
5
right, in 1905.
Right.
All right. You said that at that time he had a job. What he was handing out medals or something. You remember
Medal.
what he did in the
And
army?
your father come back.
When he came back decorated with medals all the way down. He was, I don't know what he was doing, but, huh?
He always shot straight up in the
Straight
air.
up in the air.
No, he came back with a paper signed by the guy that he had taken a permission to leave any place in Russia where Jews were not allowed. That's the kind of paper he distinguished himself.
When he wanted to go to America to make his passport, his papers, so some people, most of them, they were just going over the border on their own. You know, they were caught. They were lucky enough they ran through. But my father asked for the papers, and in 3 weeks they had every
Now,
paper.
1913 for the Jews in around Kiev was not a good time because the prime minister was killed. I remember that, by a Jew. And
1913 wasn't bad.
Well, explain to me why then he left
Why did he?
to
That's why.
America to invade another.
By years ago, was a Jew, you're not supposed to live in
There's
Kiev.
another war
You're not supposed
is
to live.
coming with the
No,
Jews,
when you
and
know,
he went
when
through
your
a war. He went through
grandfather
so much.
come from the
So he
Japs
said
war,
that
they
he
give my
doesn't
paper,
want to
he
go
can
through
live in
again.
Kiev.
My mother
And
was
Peter
there.
go out in Kiev and all.
All right, Mom. All right, Zeta left Russia. What year? 1913 or 1914?
1914.
Just before World War I. All right, he left.
For him, it was War II.
Okay, all right. He left Russia because he thought he would be drafted for the
Right,
because there was a war on the horizon.
right.
Sheila, you hold that cigar on me.
No, it was my last one. That's empty. Mom.
Yes.
All right. He came here to America. You told me once that he worked. He went to Pennsylvania. He worked in the coal mine. How long did he
Couldn't
work
find
there?
a job, but about a week or 10 days. the
Didn't you
most.
tell me there was a big cave-in while he was
That's right.
working there?
That's right.
While he was working, or right
He
after
came.
left?
He
I think?
didn't know from no unions. He didn't know what was going on. He couldn't find a job. While they came from Pennsylvania, and they came to get people to work for
Oh, he
the
was strike
scabs.
breakers. Yeah,
So
I see.
they took a train full of scabs from Chicago, and he was one of them. He went. He didn't know where he's going, and he called up Tante that he's on the train already, and he's going to Pennsylvania. He came there, and he saw what was like it. They wouldn't let him out already. He was like trapped, you know.
Didn't have the money to get there.
So to go back. So he worked there about I don't know, about a week or maybe less.
right.
So Tante gave one wire after another that somebody took very sick, he should come right home. They heard, you know, how bad it is. First of all, they were afraid. They didn't know if the mine is going to cave in. They were afraid because it was a scab. Scab, they could kill anytime.
Sure. They were a lot of
So
scabs were
they,
killed.
yes. So when they received the telegrams, a couple of them, they denied. They wouldn't show it to him. The last one, okay, good night. Hi. Take this, yeah.
The letter.
Yeah. So then he came up They brought him up and they, service. And he said, okay, good night. They just
Wait till everybody goes.
Just as your father.
Yeah, wait a minute. It's right here. Wait till they go out.
They took him to the train to go back to Chicago. The mine caved in, and there was a lot of people got killed.
Same day or just
The
immediately?
same, practically the same hour.
Wow.
See?
I tell you, this is about the 56th story that made me realize how lucky I am to be here today. Amazing coincidence. Right? All these individual little happenings, just missing the pitchfork and missing
Mary, is it
everything.
amazing?
It's absolutely incredible.
All of them?
I know. I think some of them didn't make it.
Doing incredible.
Finally got Norma, the youngest one, who missed all this stuff to talk. Norma.
I
Right.
didn't record it.
This is a short part.
Right.
All right, Norma.
Auntie Norma, from here.
What's your?
Auntie Norma, who we recall from our previous conversation, was born in 1924. Will now say.
Hi.
Let's now talk about some of the family which we've missed up to now. I understand there were some more children involved here.
They didn't survive.
Dear Rose,
Who? Who?
And if they
How
were
many?
born three
We didn't have any.
twins.
There was,
You didn't hear about the
I know
twins?
about twins,
All
yeah.
right.
How
A
long?
The
boy.
twins were the very oldest, right?
No, a boy was the very oldest.
Now, I always felt that I was the second son of a second son, but indeed I'm not. Is that correct?
No, you're not.
That's right.
Because there was a boy before you. Two boys. And then
For
your
who?
friend. There was a boy. No, there was three boys. What were the twins? A boy and a girl.
Boy and a girl.
The twins were before Auntie Ruth, right?
No,
No.
a boy
You were
before.
definitely
A
the
boy
oldest.
was before.
A boy before me.
He asked me to talk. A boy was before Auntie Ruth.
How long did he live, the first boy?
Yeah,
A
it
few
was the 6
minutes.
months.
Who got eaten by a pig? Somebody got eaten by a pig.
months, you said a couple of
Would you believe it's the same family?
My grandmother's.
I was right a few minutes.
Who got eaten
But
by
it was
pig?
a
Who got
boy.
eaten by pig?
And then Auntie Ruth. Then the twins.
Okay, then it's did any of them have names? Who was the boy's name?
They didn't have the left and have a name.
They did not live long enough.
Didn't have a name. Okay.
But wait a minute, wait a
They
minute,
ate
Wait a
baby
minute.
A, baby B, and C.
wait a minute, wait, that's not all.
Your brothers and
And in
sisters are
Jewish,
talking
it's
about.
olive-based gimel, honey.
No, wait, when the girl died,
You
so
can
my
laugh when you don't have to go
father,
through that trouble in Russia.
so my father called in the undertaker, he came, I remember, he took the baby in a talazeko. He left her out, he took her like this, and he walks out the house. And the little
Everything she
boy,
makes a fun out of it.
the little boy, he wanted to save in the worst way. He was still alive in the tree. So he opened the pillow and put a
That
baby
story
in
I
the
always
feather. In the
That was very
feather.
smart of my father.
Yeah,
In a
in the
feather
feather.
pillow,
So,
like an incubator.
Like an incubator. So before the man had a chance to leave the house, so my father was calling the other one time. So he took it.
Miracle over the two babies that didn't live.
My mother was crying. And you're
But life in Russia wasn't always that amusing.
Compared to what happened to a lot of other people, that wasn't so bad.
I do. I want all this.
They left one place for me.
My mother was crying.
How old were you?
You were 5. You should have known better than to laugh.
How many years?
I was crying with
Been
Ma.
retarded.
I was crying with Ma.
You were
As
crying.
I mentioned, my grandparents were first cousins.
Thank God
there
it
was
skipped
a
our
boy
generation.
before it was a boy.
Are you
The
sure,
four of
Norma?
us. We're glad it skipped our generation.
Are you sure?
What? What did you ask her? She should.
He
It
said
skipped your
he
generation.
says he just wanted to make note of the fact that my pa were first cousins. I said, thank God he skipped the first generation. Whatever happened after that, I don't know.
You realize there's no tape in there.
You mean you all out?
It's going. It's going.
When they started the holidays, what kind of formula?
It's in there. You won't believe it. It's in there. It's in there. That should be it. That's about it, right?
How many
I think
years
that's about it.
Any
Any more?
What else would you like to know?
Are we Benny and Lori?
Did they tell you that when they came to the country, they were all chiefly dressed? Because my mother had traveled them in Warsaw. She bought them very fine furs and gorgeous clothes. When they came to this country, all the people that came to meet them at the railroad station were very impressed because they had visions of the immigrants coming with the shawls and the schmackles, and off they came off the train. They came in their silver fox, right? My mother in a Persian lamb coat with a mink collar. And the relatives here in Warsaw. And the relatives here were very, very jealous.
The kids went
They
to
did not
school to the
expect.
graduation in her dress.
See, you didn't tell that such a good story. I had to come here and tell
You
it.
know,
Just
listen,
a minute.
hey, listen, I'm going to tell you a little story. When I was 3 days in United States in Chicago, right off Chicago Avenue,
I said-
in Washington, there was two old applicants with a gun. I don't know what his ends up. 3 days in United States, right in Chicago. They showed me the guns, and they tell me hands up. I don't know what they do. I pick up the hand. I know they took away my $8 I got left. They took away $8 and they took away a real golden watch in the Marine. Then I went away in grocery to buy something. I went in, I said, it's a Jewish grocery. I say, here in the United States, they can hold up to like, Russian. He said, what did they do? They told me hands up. What did you do? I said, pick up that. I haven't got money to buy milk and bread. I said, take some bread and milk and you pay me tomorrow. 3 days, honestly.
An introduction.
Yeah, he knows. No. You know what? They say there was no
You're
German.
not supposed to be on the table.
In Jordan.
Censor.
I knew that was going to come up.
This is our story.
Where did he come in to tell a story?
He told us about the first black person he met.
He didn't say.
Right.
He didn't say what color it was. He just held up.
No, not here, my father.
About the first black person. More than I stared at him.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to cut this off.